Hi, today I'm doing a very exciting art project. I'm going to be making butterflies that are going to fly thousands and thousands of kilometers all over the world to bring joy to someone who really needs it. For this, I'm using my finest watercolor, which is Arsha's brand watercolor. I had it shipped from France, and it is really worth the premium. So if any of you watercolorists are on a budget and you want a nice birthday present that's a little bit of a splurge, but it's still under 20 bucks, go for this. This is amazing. It really helped me take my watercolor game to the next level. I'm going to be using one sheet of this watercolor paper, cold press. I'm going to be using my graphite sheets for tracing. I will be using a trace of these beautiful butterflies to make little cards to send all over the world. A clean jar that's dedicated to watercolors for cleaning the brush. Some pure water for distilling my colors down. I have lots of different watercolor brushes. I don't know which one I'm going to use today, but I'll tell you the number and the brand when I start to use them. And of course, a pencil and a pen for tracing. These are very inexpensive watercolors, but these are the finest watercolors that I have ever used. And then I have a scrap piece of the same kind of watercolor so that I know how the colors are going to blend before they go on this watercolor. So with that done, let's get started. I'm going to put my graphite sheets somewhere mostly center-ish over here. Make sure that the dull side, it has two sides. There's a dull side and a shiny side. The shiny side should be down. Otherwise, it's not going to actually trace anything. Then use some of that masking tape to pin this down. Attach your printouts to the graphite paper using some masking tape. Just go ahead and trace the black lines. It doesn't have to be perfect. Notice how I'm not putting any dots or trying to trace out those very tiny white circles. That's by choice. It's a very deliberate choice. You can always come back with gouache and do a few dots and then you'll be done. If you don't have gouache, you can use whiteout. The key thing to remember with watercolor is that you can't put a light color on top of a dark color, at least not easily. You have to be mindful. You have to be mindful about how your colors are going to get layered. Awesome. So we've just finished one butterfly. Time to go for the other. Sometimes painters, particularly new ones, tend to hold their breath when they do traces. This isn't very good for you, and it makes you rigid and clamped up. Don't worry. Try to do your best. You'll learn. At some point, if it's requested, I'll show you some of my earlier watercolors. I tend to never throw away my paintings. They're really quite interesting. Actually, I have one right now. Look. This was one of my earliest ones, and it's not even completed because I got so frustrated with it, but okay, 2 done. Next up, make sure your forearm isn't too heavy on the other trace. Wonderful. Now for the very last one. Now go ahead and remove the paper carefully. Next up is a really fun part of watercoloring, which is that we're actually going to dunk the edges of these very carefully in water. But before we do that, it's always a good idea to test what the color schemes are going to look like, and I'm going to do that here. Always put the water before, like this, and then take some of one dye. I'm going to put it here. I asked my friends for whom I'm making these what color they would like, and a surprising number did not choose the color at all. In fact, only one person did, and I like that color. we're gonna experiment with a few different colors here, see what we really like. So, you know, honestly, I'm really liking these two, so I think this is what I'm going to do. I'm taking a Princeton number 10 round, take some pure white, and then go over the butterfly, and just the butterfly. You don't need to worry about the internal edges for this particular piece. Just make sure that it is, the water goes and stays on the inside. You can be rather generous with the water, and you can maybe shift your head a little bit from where you're painting to kind of see where it's going. Now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take some purple color, test it out here how deep the purple is, and I'm just going to go ahead like this, go over this. And remember what I said, you can go darker, it's much harder to go lighter with watercolor. Ooh. And if this happens, take some water and spread it. This is also a good place to use paper towel. I'll speed it up from this point onwards, but you can just see how I'm spreading the colors and layering everything together very, very gradually so that the butterflies end up looking really beautiful with both of these colors set in nicely. Now the paintings are mostly dry. I'm gonna go on them with a black colored pencil. And I can see that, in fact, the colored pencils are not really doing the trick that I wanted them to do, because they're not quite tinted as dark as I would like them to be. So I'm gonna go ahead and let me just start from over here. That looks nice. And once again, I'm going to go ahead and speed up the process. You can see that I'm layering the butterflies now with beautiful black watercolor, and I'm using just about a small brush. It's not a very special brush, and I'm gonna go ahead and continue to do it for all of the butterflies until we have something beautiful come out. I chose to send my friends butterflies because they seem to be in some degree of darkness, and butterflies actually are formed after these caterpillars go into cocoons, and in those cocoons they're completely locked away from the rest of the world. It's dark, it's scary, I'm sure, and yet out of that cocoon, provided that it gets the right food, nourishment, all of those things, out of that chrysalis emerges what is a very, very, very beautiful creature. And I'm done, and I'm so absolutely excited to see what will happen when these butterflies reach their destination. They're going to be flying a total of 34,000 miles. That's actually more than the circumference of the Earth to wherever they need to be. If you like this video and want to support my art, please hit the subscribe button as well as the bell icon next to it. And this will keep you up to date with all my new video postings. And be sure to leave me feedback about how you found this video by hitting the like button and leaving a comment about what your favorite parts of this video were. That said, have a great week.